is my relationship with money? Am I trustworthy with money? Are my friends going to see me the same way? How am I going to be with my wife? Am I going to get arrogant? And I realized I had all these money stories from childhood that were still dictating and causing me misery. And I call it the net worth trap. So the net worth trap is you chase, you chase, you chase, you finally make it. But if you don't have frameworks, what do? Defend, defend, defend. So you stay in anxiety and stress and you don't feel like you have enough. And you never get safe with a number. For all these things that you think you want, what are you actually solving for? What are we actually trying to do? We're trying to find feeling. What feelings are we trying to find? Happiness, peace, presence. So then how do we solve for that?
Welcome back, everybody, to the Love Conquers Fear podcast. I am coming off a morning high where I was editing my book coming out, Love Conquers Fear, with the subtitle Humanity, AI, and the Age of Abundance for All. And it was on a really serious topic. Chapter 5 of the book is on nuclear weapons and warfare. You know, it's a heavy topic, but wow, I am so honored to be delivering this type of work to humanity. It's weird when you're writing a book and you're flowing and writing these chapters, and then you come back for the tedious editing process with the publisher to get it to final, print ready, and you get to reread your book all over again. And it is a really good piece of work. I mean, I know that sounds like I'm not being humble, but I am rooted in humility, and this is a work that really is important for all of humanity. This is my soul song, and it makes me really proud to read it and think about what it's going to mean when it's in your hands later this year. And we've got a lot of work to do. I mean, there's a lot going on in that chapter and other chapters. So anyways, coming off that morning high of working through that. Also, a lot of discussion still on the Moltbook, virality in terms of, is this conscious AI, and this is the warning, signal that humanity needed to really wake up. And, it certainly is a security nightmare. There's no doubt about that. Like if you gave an AI agent at this stage, access to all of your personal information, your credit card information, your email, with how much of humanity's content they're trained on, which is both the best of our content as well as the worst of our content, cyber attacks and everything else, not a really good idea right now. And I think that this is a good wake-up call in the sense that it's a fire drill. I've written about that quite a bit on LinkedIn. So it's important that we have these types of incidences to get humanity to pay attention. And I don't think it's any mistake. I think it's a synchronicity very reminiscent of the Celestine Prophecy, great book by James Redfield, that, Dario's essay, The Adolescence of Technology, that essay came out on the Monday of the week that this Moltbook thing went totally viral. And we'll get into that a bit today with my guest. We were just talking about it before, and we both find it really fascinating. And Mustafa Suleyman, who is the co-founder of DeepMind and the head of everything AI at Microsoft, put out a pretty interesting post on LinkedIn about this seemingly conscious AI. And he's really worried about humanity assuming that these AIs are already conscious. And I think, in a way, it's our lack of love for each other as humanity that we already just immediately kind of jump to, well, of course it's conscious, when we don't even know what consciousness is, which is what we talked about with Anil, where he laid out a very cogent argument on why AI can't become conscious. Mustafa Suleyman, he has a big megaphone, being in charge of everything AI at Microsoft, and him going out there and saying, look, these aren't conscious. They're seemingly conscious. They're faking it, essentially, because they're trained on all of humanity's content. I think this is a really important PSA. He has the type of megaphone to really make that case. And then I'm really excited that Brendan Godochi is going to come on this podcast. I just confirmed that. He was one of our best at Data.World, really headed AI operations for us. He has his own consulting practice now and is really doing a great job out there helping more and more companies become AI enabled and therefore much more efficient and much more creative. You know, AI really shatters the barrier to creativity. I was just talking to my guest about an AI-based song he just made and how he's going to be working alongside that. So we could talk about that. And I'm just really excited that my good buddy is going to be coming on. Brandon was really, really exceptional. And stay tuned, because in a couple of episodes, you'll see Eben Alexander, the author of Proof of Heaven. I'm so honored that he's coming to Austin and going to be on this podcast as well. It was one of the most important books that really shifted me at the beginning of my soul quest, where I read over 55 books in the last 14 months or so. So today I have one of my best friends on. I'm really excited to welcome JP Newman. Yeah.
Hey, Brett, it's so great to be here. And I just love listening to your opening. It's like I always learn. Every time I'm with you, I learn something. It's incredible.
Well, thanks so much, man.
Yeah.
Well, I always tell people this, I've known you for a long time, that you're the embodiment of love. Like that's usually the way I introduce you.
Thank you.
And it's so true. And, there's so much for us to cover on this. You and I have done so many things together in the Jewish community and in other communities. Maybe we just start out with what you're working on now, because Fulfillionaire really is, I'm doing this work as my soul song, and Fulfillionaire is your soul song.
It is.
And it really is about the path to eternal happiness for human beings. So why don't we start there?
Absolutely. Well, like a little bit of how I got here, Brett. Like, I've been in commercial real estate for 20 years with my company, Thrive FP.
Yeah.
And I think it's just been observational. I've dealt with so many high net worth individuals. And I realized that in some ways I felt like a financial psychologist. Mm-hmm. And I really realized, even through my own journey, that for so many years I was chasing to make money. And then when I actually made money, I had no real framework or format of like what the money actually meant.
Right.
And when to stop, like how much was enough. There was no rules, which caused me a lot of insecurity. Mm-hmm. And so this Fulfillionaire really is a birth of how do we create and align money with fulfillment? Mm-hmm. How do we align money with peace, joy, and presence?
Right.
Because so many of us, especially when we're young, and it's all over the media and Instagram, but what are we supposed to be doing? Providing. And the richer you get, somehow you're going to find love. That woman's going to fall in love with you because you became this successful entrepreneur. I mean, it's in our music, it's in our lyrics, it's everywhere. So we kind of have these false narratives, I think, of like what love actually is.
Yeah.
And I think for women, it's like being super beautiful and bringing in that king. And I think for men, a lot of like the narrative has been just make that lots of money, drive a Lamborghini, and that perfect woman, and somehow you guys are going to find love, like a great Disney film. But you and I both know that's not exactly how love or fulfillment or peace actually works. So the work for me, the birth of Fulfillionaire, which is obviously a joke on a millionaire. So obviously this idea of chasing status as a millionaire or whatever you're going to be versus actually aligning where your money is, literally your financial plan and your money is like the root of currency, which is energy.
Right.
I call it the 4 dimensions of wealth. So if you're just collecting money as a Fulfillionaire, you're living in one dimension. And I feel like a lot of people live in one dimension. And when you live in one dimension, you can't find fulfillment. And from my own experience, I know that.
Right.
You spend so much, you listen to Tony Robbins, you do the things, you do the affirmations, you work 20 hours a week, and you finally get there. You actually finally chase it, you chase the money, and you get there. And then what happens when you get there? Well, my experience was anxiety. Mm-hmm. I joke and I say, but it was actually what happened. When I had a vision board, and when I got my first BMW, I had a vision board of this BMW convertible, and I wanted it so bad.
Right.
And when it got delivered to my house and I got it, when I put my hands on the steering wheel, I sat in the car, I freaked out. Like, I wasn't prepared for actually money. It was the weirdest thing.
Yep.
And I think what I realized from that point forward was like, I didn't have a relationship with money. I didn't know if I could, like, what was my relationship with money? Am I trustworthy with money? Are my friends going to see me the same way? Is my wife, like, how am I going to be with my wife? Am I going to get arrogant? Mm-hmm. And I realized I had all these money stories from childhood that were still dictating and causing me misery. And I call it the net worth trap. So the net worth trap is you chase, you finally make it, But if you don't have frameworks, what do? Defend, defend, defend. So you stay in anxiety and stress and you don't feel like you have enough. And you never get safe with a number.
Yep.
Like, what's your number? What do most people say? When you talk to people like around money, you're very lucky. You are a fulfillionaire. You've gotten there. But a lot of people, like, what would they say to you? It's like, if you were to ask the question, what number do you need? What's your freedom number to feel safe around money? What would most people say?
Well, the one that I've heard the most, which is an obscene number, is $100 million.
Right.
Yeah.
So I always ask the second, whatever someone says to me, it's usually a net worth. I want to be worth 100 million, or it's, I want to 2x or 4x my business. That's like very, very common. My next question, because I've mentored a lot of people now through the years of doing this, and many, many investors, is why? Like, what does that number mean? What does $100 million mean to you?
Right.
And then there's usually a story, and I call this your cocktail story. It's the story you tell at a party about who you are, and if you're in that, why these things matter. I like to travel, I drive Lamborghinis, whatever your story is, that's where you start to tell the story. But then you go to the next question. So why is that important to you? Like, why is that travel? Why is having a boat? Why are these things happening to you? And usually people will continue to go into stories. And these stories actually start, a lot of them, from childhood.
Right.
So you keep telling stories, but what you're missing is what I call the why. So for all these things that you think you want, what are you actually solving for?
Right.
What's the money? Because remember, why are we chasing money? It's just paper and metal.
Right.
It's got no intrinsic value.
Yep.
What are we actually trying to do? We're trying to find feelings. What feelings are we trying to find? Happiness, peace, presence. So then how do we solve for that?
Right.
And when I start to get down the line with most people into their why, I call it the why that makes you cry. The why of the things that matter to you most, your friends, your family, your wife, your community, your presence, what makes you actually happy.
Right.
There seems to be a disconnection. So Fulfillionaire for me has really been 20 years of watching a lot of wealthy people that I've managed, incredibly fearful and not clear and feeling very unsafe around money.
Yeah.
It always amazes me. And you and I are both philanthropists. I'm amazed now that I've had to pick up the phone for the last couple of years and raise money, that sometimes my wealthiest friends don't donate. They're not really philanthropists. And I know why. They don't feel safe. There's always a story like, it wasn't a good year for my business, or all these different stories.
Right.
But the truth is, if you don't have safety or clarity of knowing kind of the things that matter to you most, it's really hard to be a great giver.
Yep.
Which is the very nature of currency, is to be able to give and receive.
Yeah.
And so Fulfillionaire
is tzedakah in Judaism.
It is. And so Fulfillionaire is really my 20 years of experience of investors, my own story. It took me years to figure this out of how I can feel safe.
Right.
And I'm an entrepreneur in a real estate company. And I have my great years and I've got down years. Right now, this is the winter. These are like really, really hard years in real estate.
Yep.
But then there was really up years.
Yep.
So how do you create a container of safety and clarity, especially when you're an entrepreneur and you don't have predictable sources of income?
Yeah.
And that was the birth of Fulfillionaire, which is essentially, how do we get clear on mindset? Like, what was the mindset, like the things you had from childhood? Getting just aware of like the things that drive you. Because I think a lot of people, like mine was from my grandfather, my Jewish my Zeta. Money doesn't grow on trees.
Yeah.
Right? And I was told to always like eat everything off my plate. Like, it was kind of scarcity.
Right.
Like, and the other one I was given at a young age is you can't have it all. So like, if I'm gonna, which is why when I got in the BMW and I thought, is my wife gonna still like me? What will my friends think about me? Is because my early story was you can't have it all. The shoe has to drop.
Right.
You can't have money and be happily married, have happy kids, have friends that actually like you for who you are, you not being a good person and keeping your energy clear and not getting temptations of things you probably shouldn't be doing that are less than desirable.
Yeah, I mean, this as you say this, I mean, of course I know it's true. You and I have both done a lot of inner work and are very spiritual people, and what Anthony DeMello would call this in his book Awareness this is part of waking up. It's like deprogramming. When Taro was on the podcast, I think that was episode 14 or so, the founder of Four Sigmatic, his favorite book out of 130 that he read on his own soul quest as he started to wake up was awareness. And, the programming that we receive is constant. I mean, the algorithms of social media and the media are constantly seeking to hijack our basest emotions, which are really hardwired because we've had 300,000 years on this planet as Homo sapiens, and 99.9% of that time we haven't had electricity. So we've only had electricity for 0.1% of the time. So
which is incredible to think about that.
It's incredible to think about, right? And now you and I are in this generation, which will be the last generation to remember life before the internet. Of course, we remember life before mobile. And now we're going to say we remember life before, AI.
I was actually thinking about that this morning. I was thinking, God, it's crazy that at camp, when I was a kid, it was an AM transistor radio. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was literally a pocket radio to like where we've come in my life. Yeah. Could have never imagined. Yeah. Like, as I'm writing songs in AI, last night I had a dream. Actually, it was 2 nights ago, I had a dream about a TV series. Which doesn't usually channel through me, called Side Hustle. And I wrote it up in the morning. That's cool. Me and AI wrote it up. So
that's very Rick Rubin and the Creative Act. You got the download.
I did. I'm listening to Rick Rubin on Audible right now, and I think it actually is channeling through me. Mm-hmm. I literally wrote an entire TV series that I think is really, it's a awesome comedy that's kind of socially relevant. Yeah. Almost like Roseanne. Yeah. But my own version of today's modern, which I'll bore you with. Well,
speaking about the barrier to creativity being shattered, it'll just be a couple of years before you can take one of these AI video tools, whether it's Veo, whether it's Sora, and actually make that into a TV series 100%. For a very, very low price. And same thing with The Lattice, my science fiction novella. I've kind of joked since I've come out with it, it'll probably be 2 years before it will be a movie. I could do that today if I did like 10-second clips and kind of pieced it all together.
Totally. Absolutely.
But it'll be a much, much better product in a couple of years. And so...
But I'm going down the rabbit hole of exactly what you're saying. Because I came from Sony Pictures, where I used to produce animation and family entertainment. And so as someone who's produced a lot of television programming in my past life, I'm watching this with so much excitement because it's exactly... The Lattice will be a film.
Yeah. I went in the Grand Canyon trip that I went on. I told you about that trip and how spiritual that trip was, because there's nothing but presence there. There's no electricity. There's no flushing toilets. There's, everything is. You're really in the wild. You're going to come back to society, which is nice. But for 8 days, you're just completely present with the people there. And there was this TV writer on the trip, who at the beginning of the trip was very fearful of AI and what it would mean for his field. But by the end, and he and I were talking every day about it, he became much more optimistic because he educated me on something that you would know. I was just totally ignorant to this, and it makes sense. It's like total common sense, but not being from that industry, that, what determines a bad film or a bad TV series or a good one is that there is a set budget. And if you start out wrong, with something that the root's not going to be a great one to grow from, sorry, you're just out of budget. And, even though you have the ideas later on that would have made it great, there's no more budget. Whereas AI will allow you to test so many different concepts. Yeah. And then produce, right, what you actually want.
It also gets rid of the gatekeepers. Like in my time, I was a gatekeeper. When I worked for Sony, I was a gatekeeper. When I pitched my shows, there's so many, like, very few places to go still today where you can get it out there. And I think what will happen, it'll be like infinite product, but like the best will rise to the top. Like that, whether it's The Lattice or whatever comes out, I've got a dream show that I really want to, I have one in me right now that I want to make.
That's awesome.
It's almost like a South Park. It's social commentary. Yeah. It's called The Adjusters. I'll have to tell you about it one day.
Oh, fun.
and it's social commentary and something that you make on the fly. And I think in the next 2 to 3 years, I could see myself actually producing it.
That'd be pretty wild.
And either 400 people will see it or 4 million, but it democratizes what people see, right? Yeah. By thumbs up, by community. So really, the best product should actually float to the top. Yeah.
Well, so coming back to deprogramming, I mean, it just is the case that that the inner journey is the one that all the spiritual traditions talk about. And essentially it's a journey of love conquering fear. That we went to Bhutan over the December break, and you and I haven't talked about that trip a lot, but a lot of people look at you and me and they'll say, oh, I need to be financially successful to walk this spiritual path. And it's just not true at all. I mean, yeah. Bhutan, I'm writing about Bhutan as one of the case studies in Love Conquers Fear. I've actually already written that part. And their whole GDP is $2 billion, which is 3 weeks of coffee in the United States. Okay, that's the entire GDP of the country. And they measure themselves on gross national happiness. And that was a very explicit choice that they made, in around the 1970s, to say, we're going to measure ourselves on that versus GDP. And even though, you won't see a Lamborghini in Bhutan, I mean, I don't think one exists in Bhutan, not just because of their financial status, just because they won't crave something like that. They have such a sense of deprogramming. They're almost all of them are deeply Buddhist. They meditate every day. They're all about inner contentment, the inner journey. And they're immune to the programming that we receive in America, which is constantly trying to keep us in this stimulus state of craving the next dopamine hit, or trying to follow that next horrible story. And in a world of 8.2 billion humans, every single day there's something really horrible happening. I mean, you and I are both Jewish. October 7th was really, really bad. Like, that was really scary. I had nightmares about that for months, because that type of stuff is very existential for our people, to see something like that. And
but one thing I want to add too, you think about it, and this is, to me, is really disturbing, is like, with AI, if you think about it, everybody wants to be an influencer now, ultimately sell a product. So you learn a lot about funnels, right?
Yep.
And so with AI, it's incredibly easy to learn how to manipulate dopamine. Mm-hmm. So I can come up with the next product, and literally the AI is going to help me figure out whether you need this product or not, what you're missing from your life. Because the biggest thing is like, I'm not enough, but this little piece will solve some problem for me. It's a product or service that will solve some problem that I'm having, which isn't a bad thing. On the surface, that's beautiful, that the market's driven to solve humanity's problems. Yep. The problem is when everybody has these perfect coaches coming out and selling you things that aren't coming from consciousness. They're coming from somebody wanting to make money and ultimately be extractive versus accretive. Yep. And so that's the tricky part, and it goes back to being consciously human. Mm-hmm. We're going to get so good at telling people on social media or the media that there's something unsafe or something that they need. And that has been the hypnotism that's kept us from the freedom that you're describing about.
Right. Yeah, there's a really funny book I listened to by Dr. David, I think his last name is Dawkins. It's called How to Surrender to God, and it's a series of his lectures. And Mark Gober was the one that originally turned me on to him. I know you're good friends with Mark. It's essentially what David is saying in that book is that there's a lot of people that they do deprogram, and they deprogram to the point where they actually move to Sedona, he was joking about this, and get rid of all of their material items and move into very meager, housing. And he said, then they, go out to a couple of dinners and realize they need a refrigerator, so they go buy a refrigerator again, and they kind of reaccumulate. And he's like, the whole point, and he sees the cycle over and over again, and he's like, the whole point is to not be owned by your material items.
Oh boy, I actually experience that all the time. I'm like, I see that the more you acquire, the more you are owned by the things. And Brett, one acknowledgement when you use the Bhutan example is, look, the reality is, and I talk about this in Fulfillionaire, if you can't pay your rent and you're really suffering, and you don't have access to food or medical care, it's really, really hard to be peaceful and present.
Of course, yeah.
And so we all kind of know that you have to have your basic needs. It's Maslow's law.
Yeah,
and
Maslow hierarchy.
And so if you don't have your hierarchy of needs meet, So it's not just all peace and love will get you there. You have to have your basic needs met, including love.
Yep.
But once you get to that point of safety, love, peace, and you have food in your belly, your roof is good, and you feel safe. Like there's no war, there's no one invading. You're not worried, unfortunately, a lot of wars and genocides, you're not worried about your family or your safety. Then you really have the keys to the kingdom.
Right.
Because as you know, I think in America, that number these days is about $75,000, might be $100 now with inflation. But the point is, once your safety needs are met, your incremental happiness from going to those basic needs to a lot of stuff, it can go up 5-10%. And I can tell you, there's a lot of great experiences that you and I get to do. We get to go to TED together, which is not a cheap conference to get there. There's wonderful things that we get to experience when you get to the next level. But arguably say those are incremental. And they say that the billionaire's dilemma is even gets more incremental because there's so few things on planet Earth that you can't do if you're worth 500 million or a billion. So what happens when you're worth 100 billion or 200 billion? You can buy a bunch of houses, you can buy a bigger boat or maybe a helicopter. The problem is you're only this meat suit of one person who can only be at one place at one time.
Right.
So to your point, all these things to start to own you and need to be managed with crews. So then your life gets filled with mundane details that have nothing to do with presence, joy, or peace.
Right.
You're just managing. You've actually been enslaved, in my opinion, to manage a bunch of things, to maybe impress others, show status, whatever it is for you, but you're not getting the gains. If you're really an efficient human being and you're really kind of gearing and aiming for happiness as your target, that wouldn't be a great strategy if you're an alien looking down on the planet.
Yeah, I mean, walking the spiritual path and just, deprogramming myself, it's led to me, doing things that I never thought I would do because I never really had a problem with it. Like, for example, giving up alcohol. I don't have any bad days, the next day. I never have a hangover. And I know that, John Mackey has done that. But, the bigger point here is that the path is, whether you follow a spiritual path or whether you follow Stoicism, is that happiness is only found on the inside. There is no other place you're going to find it. There's no accumulation of material items that's going to get you there. There is no end to the greed of accumulation if that is honestly how you are measuring your self-worth. Yeah. And there's a huge difference. I mean, and I just want to emphasize that a place like Bhutan, stares at you in the face because, when we were leaving there was this beautiful ceremony where there was this blessing by this monk, and one of the women, American woman attending, it was a family trip, so we had our kids there. She had her kids there, and they're college-age kids. She was crying, and she was like, oh my gosh, I want to bring this back to America. I want to bring this feeling and this peace back to America. And I felt it. I felt her heart. I felt exactly what she was feeling. And she's there. She definitely is someone that has accumulated a lot, like we have. And we're sitting in a country in Bhutan where the people are much happier than the average American, which I think is, we have a loneliness and depression epidemic in this country. And so, as Jason Karp said on episode 3 of this podcast, we have to transcend this putting profits over people. And that's a big part of what Love Conquers Fear is all about, is I'm trying to get humanity with this I'm trying to be a part of the heart shift that humanity needs, so that we embrace abundance for all, meaning everyone on this planet, realizing that we're 99.9% the same DNA-wise, this deep love for all of humanity, so we don't destroy ourselves, because there is a lot of dystopian fear out there, whether it's AI or nuclear weapons or whatever it is, that is justified if we don't course correct in terms of our path. And I do think the consciousness awakening that you and I are seeing is happening in conjunction with this rise of AI. You know, there's a huge rise in psychedelics and meditation and this pursuit of happiness. You know, if the pursuit of happiness does not include a deep focus on the inner journey, I'm very skeptical of it, because it's like, is it just happiness on the surface level, or is it actually like lasting?
So Brett, I want to throw, if I can, I want to throw into you.
Please,
because the reason why Fulfillionaire works now is, ironically, it's technology.
Yeah.
After going 20 years, I don't know what your experience is. You have a family office, so it's different. I've had financial planners, and I've never been satisfied. Because again, I find like financial planners, once again, they keep you in your head. I call it the one, back to one-dimensional wealth. What do most people say? Diversified portfolio of stocks over time, save money, so that when you retire, which is a whole other concept in itself I don't believe in, so that when you retire, you have money to retire with. That's kind of what we tell most people in our financial system.
Right.
That's completely based on scarcity. It's like keep squirreling away in some ways. And the question you really haven't asked me deeply is about my happiness, like what deeply makes me happy. And then you haven't connected my plan to accumulate this energy called money, currency, with the things you haven't asked me what matters to me most. And why haven't we connected those together? And what's really, really cool right now is I have some of the smartest artificial intelligence prompters helped me with this. And it came from my own frustration of, I go through I've gone through a bunch of them until I kind of found my own format where I didn't feel like they were asking me the right questions. So now, like my format, I have these 2-day workshops here in Austin, but we literally start with, hey, let's get to our money stories and our beliefs that came from childhood. That's the iceberg underneath the water. And I find so many people gas brake with money.
Right.
The Wiser company, they make money, then they lose it. They play the lottery because, once again, you don't have your beliefs of actually empowering beliefs. Like money, and I think you have this experience, it's like money has the ability to completely change people's lives. Like the more money I accumulate, the more influence I can make on the planet and uplift people's lives. That is so much better than money grows on trees, which is, again, once going to scarcity. So once I clear through like some of my beliefs, and that takes some time, but that is not easy to actually de-root. And this is back to the spiritual journey, by the way. So actually money and your heart, in my belief, they're running parallel paths. Because once you loosen up the 300,000 years of survival, that it's okay, there's not scarcity, there actually is enough, then you can go to the next step. What do I actually want? What's the why that makes me cry? The why. And the why, when I talk to people and coach people through this, Brett, it always ends, we go from the bar stories, the stories you tell at parties, the games you play. But if I go with you long enough, especially with these AI processes, and ask you about 20 questions, we're going to get to an emotion. And that's your dharma. And it's different for everybody. It's love at the core. But for some people, it might be uplifting orphans in Africa. For some people, it might be literally teaching handicapped children how to ski. Like, we're all given these beautiful gifts. I know what your gift is. We're doing it right now. And my dharma is literally waking people up around money so they can become better givers. That's it. But it's a whole structure. So once I can get you to actually get what I call the 4 dimensions of wealth, and the way I define them, Brett, is the 4 Ps. So there is your purpose wealth, which is your connection, not only to your legacy, but actually the connection to, call it your deep-rooted spiritual path. What are you uniquely here to do? Maybe it's just to be a great father. It doesn't have to be this epic thing. That's right. It could just be, I want to be a great leader in my church or my temple.
This is very Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It's that, right?
Like, let's just get connected to that P, which is your purpose. The second P is your people wealth. What is your relationship with people? Let's start with yourself. What's your relationship with yourself? What's your relationship with your wife, your spouse, your kids, your people wealth, and your ultimate community? Are you connected? Because like you said earlier, Brett, so many people are isolated right now. I think they're saying 1 out of every 3 people right now, this is, I think, comes from your friend Lincoln, do not have a circle of friends. So they're using AI more and more, which you and I both agree, does not have a soul. It substitutes us. The third one is presence wealth. Are you living in your head? And we have all these phones and all this stuff constantly stimulating us. So really, presence wealth is your connection to time. It's your relationship with time. It's not time. lot of people say work less or work more, da da da. This actually is not about how you manage your time. It's your connection and your relationship with time. Like right now, Brett, as I'm with you, there's nothing going on in my body or my brain except this conversation with you.
Likewise. Yeah.
That's taken me many, many years to not what's next, what's the audience think, like just being here now.
Yep.
And the last one that people don't talk about, Brett, is play wealth. That's the last dimension of wealth. Play wealth is the connection to your joy, what makes you alive, joy and aliveness, and ultimately your creativity, the Rick Rubin thing. So many of us, we become workaholics, or we're driving so hard to one day be happy, to make the money, to one day be happy, or one day find the girl, or one day do this. When really, as humans, what makes us not AI is that creative spark. So if your joy, so I use play wealth, people are like, play wealth, that's so risky. He must be talking about Burning Man. No, yes, I happen to like Burning Man, but that's not what I'm talking about. Play wealth is, for you, Brad, I can tell you some of your play wealth. When you host a dinner party, and you get all creative, and I know you've thought about not only a great guest, you curate who you're going to invite. You have an idea. You don't try to force the conversation, but you bring great minds together and you kind of like tee up a question. That is part of your play wealth, which the value for you, it's creativity of like having these great conversations. And it's part of your joy and aliveness of bringing people together and curating them to come up with new ideas and new movements that can lift humanity up. So it's actually a spiritual practice for you.
It is.
And by the way, I say when I get invited to one of your dinner parties, I've actually said this to other people, it's like Albert Einstein inviting me over with some of the smartest people on the planet, and I just get to listen to some of the most incredible ideas. So this idea of play, and I use play to be a little provocative. We need to play more, but what we really need to do in that play, it's not hedonistic play, it's play because the more you are connected to your joy and aliveness, the more you can be that creative human being, which once again brings you back to your spiritual practice. Because being creative is what uniquely makes us human. It's going to make us different than the AI. I've been telling my kids, as they're both in college right now, the thing you can do most is connect with humans and notice your creativity. In the last week, Brett, I painted a painting with my wife. I mean, it's been so much fun. Literally,
that's awesome.
We took a canvas, and it's gorgeous, by the way. And we were both nervous, like, can we paint? And I thought about Rick Rubin, like letting go and being present as a spiritual practice and not being connected to whether it was good or bad. I've written a TV series, and I've written a song that I'm going to perform this weekend.
This is in 1 week.
This is 1 week. And I am using AI, and I'm dancing with AI, but the point is, so like, once you know actually the why that makes you cry in the 4 dimensions, here's the fun part I could not do before, and now I can. Then I say, okay, this is the life I want to live. And then I borrow from Cameron Herold and say, don't take me 20 years from now. Like, it's so hard to say what you want in 20 years from now. I don't want to be worth 20 million when I'm this age. Let's just go 36 months. Let's just go 3 years. And from where you're at now, maybe you're happy now with where you're at, but if you could say, where you're at now, which is your current burn rate, how much it costs to live the life you're now, you start to look in the 4 dimensions of wealth of the 4 Ps and say, God, I'd love to go. For me, I actually wanted a chef to bring food to my house, which I've now done. And I want to go to Costa Rica with my wife and spend 2 months there and have a whole vision. Then you ask the AI, once you're at this 36-month vision plan for your life, I wake up in the morning, I hold my wife's hand, I'm drinking matcha. At 11 o'clock, my first phone call with my team. Like, I could go on and on. I wrote this beautiful, me working with ChatGPT, not to tell me what to do, but as my collaborator. It gave me 3 or 4 new ideas I never thought of, Brett, that I'm so excited about. I now have food service because of this. We have a private physical trainer that was described to me. And I'm like, yeah, I want that. Like, my relationship with my wife, it was just beautiful. So then the next question becomes, well, how much is that going to cost? Not in net worth. Because net worth to me is irrelevant. Net worth is a vanity number. So really, okay, so what would it cost to live this life? If this is my life, what would it cost on the annual basis to live that life? And here's the answer, because I've now done this for hundreds of people, Brett. It's less than you think. So we way overshoot because we don't know. So if you're in fear and you don't know, you just way overshoot. Now, I want to be worth 10 million. I want to be worth 100 million. Then when you're worth 100 million, you want to be worth 200 million. We keep overshooting. But once you actually know the life you want to live, and it changes. This is just 36 months. We're going to reassess this. But once you know that, then all I simply have to do, let's just say the number was $500,000 would be like the most incredible life ever. You get to travel with your kids, all the memories, all the emotional anchors that make you super happy. Well, this is cool. So we get to $500,000. It was less than you thought. Great. How much do you make, which I call your active income? How much do you make in your business? How much can you take home? What kind of investments do you have that actually produce cash flow? I'm really, really big as a real estate guy into creating cash flow. And then between your active income, which is your job, and your passive income, where are you now? And for some people, they're already fulfillionaires. Oh, I'm already there. I've been chasing something I don't even need because I didn't know what I wanted.
Right.
And then for some people, they're a little shy. They're like, you know what, I'm at 300,000 now, but now I have a target to shoot for. Cool. I need $200,000 more, which takes me to more AI. And this is the next day 2 of my course, which is we build a financial plan with AI. And by the way, it feels like playing the funnest video game you've ever played.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's got all these awards, but literally once you start to put in your burn rates, what you're making today, your active income, your passive income, your liquidity, you start talking about your investments, I literally can tell you not exactly where you're at and where you need to go. So the AI will actually show you, hey, you're 41% of the way to $500,000. Here's where you're really good. You have a lot of cash, maybe too much cash. It starts to give you the 5 things that you can do, advise you of how you want to get to that dream of 500,000 from 300,000. It will just tell you how to do it in a framework that I call the wealth pyramid.
That's cool.
And the wealth pyramid is really cool. It's a really simple relationship, but it's just a simple relationship between how much cash do you have, how much do you have coming in passive income, and then how much of your investments don't make any income and won't for the next, they're more like I call them speculative or they don't produce income regularly, which is fine, by the way. It just depends where you're at in life. I mean, you and I both love investing in some venture capital, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you know that your goal is to get to $500,000 and you're not there yet, then maybe you put a little more emphasis on cash flowing assets, because to get you to that 500,000, so it gives you some like a roadmap and guidance.
Yeah.
And here's the cool part, Brett. If you know that's your number for now, then you know what winning is. For the first time in your life, you know what winning is, where you can just relax.
Right.
Especially, there's lots of course, there's asset protection and there's taxation. I do all these things in my courses. But let's get to your number first before we start getting really complicated on estate planning and all that stuff. And so winning at first might be my income that I earn through my job and my passive income. But ultimate winning is I don't need my job anymore. My passive income covers my dream number.
Right.
And that is truly a fulfillionaire. And what is the right number? The answer is, what is the right number for you?
Right, right.
So no more of this framework, I got to get to some status, some things, some that. It's like, once we have that targeted, and then every time you start making money and you're getting closer, because my little wealth pyramid in AI, it's real time. It keeps a progress chart and congratulates you and gives you coins and awards and everything.
Yep.
Then you get to emotionally anchor, like, oh my God, I'm getting really close. I've always wanted to take my kids to Japan and do it first class. Like, how cool if I could fly first class and eat at the best restaurants and spend that quality time with my wife and show my kids, which I got to do, by the way, which was one of my absolute favorite trips with my kids. But like, that means so much more to me. And listen, you know, I like cars, I like Porsches. They're great. And that trip to Japan with my kids was rad. So if I know that I'm making progress in the wealth pyramid, then I always say, take time and thank God, because they theoretically in Judaism, not theoretically, in Judaism would say, it's not even your money. It's Hashem's money.
All right.
You've just be grateful, because whatever your lot in life is, big or small, is a gift from a higher power.
Right.
And you don't even own it.
Right.
You don't own any. This can be taken from you like that, and we both know that.
Right.
So then you get to be in gratitude, and you get to emotionally anchor. So now when you're working every day, you have a framework for A, what winning is, B, more purpose, C, conjure up gratitude, because you know the things in your mind that matter to you most amongst the 4 dimensions of wealth.
Yeah.
And so AI has changed things. I can tell you my financial planners have never spoken to me about money, about planning money in this kind of format. And what's cool about this, Brett, in my mind,
I mean, they're supposed to, but yeah, most of them don't.
They don't. They're not taking it with what's the why that makes you cry, or really how do you get there.
As a matter of fact, quite a few of them will just be trying to sell you the next product.
the off the shelf
It's
product.
like more consumption.
Which I love. I'm a big alternative investments guy as a real estate guy. And that's also a lot of empowerment of actually knowing. A lot of people I've learned, Brett, which is shocking, a lot of wealthy people don't really know how their portfolio is actually performing. They have this person over there in New York or somewhere in a very beautiful marble office. And I say, well, what are you doing? What's your performance like on your portfolio? I'm guessing you know, because you're not the normal person. You're very organized and you think that way. Most people don't even know what they're earning or how well their stockbroker's doing for them. Or if it's a down, they don't even understand. If I'll say, how did you do last year? How long have you been with this stockbroker for? And they'll say 9 years. What have you done inception to date? Like, what's he done for you? His only real job for you is to make you money on the money that you have so you can be free.
Right.
I promise you, Brett, if you ask 9 out of 10 people those 2 questions about performance, they do not know.
Right. Wow.
And they certainly don't know overall.
Yeah.
Which keeps you in that fear and that scarcity.
Yeah.
And Brett, if I can do full circle, and I'll let you talk. I'm sorry, you can tell I'm a little.
No, this is great.
I'm a little
love
passionate
it.
about this.
Yeah.
I'm riffing. But what's the soul journey? So why does this matter from a soul perspective? And you think about it, it's like, how do we go on this journey of maybe feeling scarce, unsafe, unclear to what winning is financially? So again, I'll give next year when I have more time. You know, you always have these reasons of why we can't give more. So how do we go from that to clarity? Now I'm clear. I know what my winning number is. I'm celebrating my wins. I'm not waiting to get somewhere. I'm celebrating my wins. And as I celebrate my wins, every quarter I check in because I'm now becoming a good manifester. So it's like, ooh, I did that one. I got to 50%. I got that trip to Japan planned. What else could I create? What else would be amazing? And I find as I get older, for me and for both of us, it becomes a lot about giving.
Right.
Which takes me to the third part. Because once you feel safe and abundant, truly in the proper spiritual definition of abundance, not what it looks like to the outside, but you get that what God is giving you and whatever your spirit is more than enough. You're overflowing, you're safe, and you're clear. Now you get to really go to the next step, which is you get to be a great servant leader, an impact king, manifester. The thing that's most interesting to me at this point in my life is how much more if I make money can I give away? I'd like to give away for every dollar I make. My thought is to give away $1 for anything going forward at this point.
That's awesome.
And not because I'm the wealthiest person. There's so many people richer than me. Like if I was just about like, is this enough? I could say, oh my God, well, this person has more money than me, and this person has more money than me, and this person has 3 houses, and this person, and it doesn't.
I mean, there's always someone that has more money.
It doesn't stop.
Yeah, there's no end to, comparison is the thief of joy. There's no end to the comparison again.
And they at the highest level of this is kind of where we meet, where Fulfillionaire and your whole philosophy meets is once you relax and you feel safe and you become this giver of currency and you're flowing. It's actually a deeply spiritual practice because now you're a giver.
Yeah. And
I really think at our soul, at our core, if you want to find that quietness and that peace, empathy, and love for others is how we're hardwired as humans.
Right.
And it's what makes us different from the AI.
Yeah.
It's the difference from the simulation of artificial intelligence versus HI, human intelligence, and then ultimately divine intelligence. Because here's what they say in the Torah, even in the Bible, you go back to Maimonides, and Maimonides basically says, this relationship between receiver and giver of humans is a relationship that I've created, meaning God's created. We're not all supposed to be equal.
Right.
This is a spiritual practice. Giving and receiving on both sides is an energetic spiritual practice. And guess who gets the most out of it, according to God?
The giver.
The giver. And this idea of when they say the expression, give till it hurts, like that edge, it's one thing. If you and I were just asked right now to give $100 to something, we both would, all the time, like easy thing.
Right.
It's the hard one sometimes. Like when you hit your edge, you're like, ooh, I'm a little uncomfortable. And I can tell you with a couple of things recently, I've gotten really uncomfortable. And that's where the spiritual work, they say, is like not to do things that are irresponsible to your family, but actually get to that point because when you hit your edge of what you're willing to do or what you're doing, you've been a very generous philanthropist, But when you get to that point, what you're basically saying is, I have my relationship with money, I trust money, money trusts me. Mm-hmm. I know I can make more of it. And I also know that God always provides.
Right.
So you're actually doing this spiritual affirmation, a very powerful affirmation. I have enough, mm-hmm. I live in abundance, and I have faith in myself and in God that I can always make more.
All right.
So if you walk around as a human, and think about this, Brett, if you walk around as a human and you feel that abundant inside yourself and you really believe all this, mm-hmm. think about if humanity could take this on at different levels. And I understand, once again, if you don't have money, this is not a luxury you get to play with. But even if you're at some basic levels of subsistence to higher, imagine the wealthy people.
Right.
How quickly would this world change? Because now we're focusing on giving. It almost becomes as joyful to give
right.
as it is to receive, which is starting to become, not starting, is my experience at this point.
Yeah.
Maybe I probably have some more work to do, but like, that's the exact point of how we're going to solve this.
Yeah.
This is how love is going to conquer fear.
For sure. Yeah, you are the embodiment of love conquering fear, and now you've set this program, in action. And I love what you're saying about using AI. I mean, I use AI all the time, and it's amazing. I mean, it's like the most amazing creative brainstorming partner. The co-creation,
my collaboration partner
is amazing because our brains cannot hold all of the content that humanity has ever produced.
Yeah.
But the AI system can. And so, for people that are intimidated by using ChatGPT or Claude and think, oh my gosh, this is a very technical system. Look, it speaks in English.
Yeah.
And it not just speaks in English, but it's pulled in all the content in Japanese, Russian, you name it, every language in the world, Hebrew, and made it consumable in English, so like, some of the mind-blowing use cases, like you're in Japan and you're trying to find a restaurant, you want it to analyze the native speaker Japanese reviews to tell you in English for your dietary choices, like what is the best. There's just like all these mind-blowing moments that I've had with it. So, I'm not dystopian about AI. What is really important is how we use it.
Yeah.
And that's been all technology since the discovery of fire. Going back to just, I want people to hear this story because it took a lot of work to get to this point of being smart with money, I guess what I would say, or being, really focused on development of the soul and using money as energy. And one of the things that happened to me early on, I don't even know if you know this story, is, I say happened to me, I mean, it was something I put in motion, is, Deborah and I have been married, 29 years. I know you and Jana have been married for a long time as well. I definitely married my soulmate also. And when I graduated from UT Austin, that's where we met, both graduated from UT, I was very programmed on Car and Driver magazine and the Nissan ZX twin turbo.
Beautiful
It just come
car.
out.
Great car.
300.
I love that car.
Yeah, it was a beautiful car. But there's no way I was financially ready for it. And I'd gotten the dream job at Deloitte Consulting, this before I became an entrepreneur. And I think I was making, I don't know, $35,000 a year or something like that, which actually at that point in time was a lot of money.
Sure.
I graduated in 1994 from UT with my undergrad. I went later on to Wharton for my MBA. That was 97 to 99. And I wanted that car, and so we went to a car dealer, and it took about 5 hours, which is the worst way. I was like starving by the end of it. The worst way, they were like wearing me down. I ended up buying it, and it consumed like most of our monthly income. Yeah. Like it was crazy. And within 5 months, I was like, Deborah, I've got to get out of this thing. This is making me miserable. Like, yeah, it was fun driving it the first couple of times. It was totally making me miserable.
Right.
And I found a UT student that came from the Middle East and had just tons of money. His parents were just giving him tons of money every month, and he bought it from me for the price that I owed.
Perfect.
On
You got out of it.
So I got out of it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And from that point on, I remembered what my you invoked your grandfather earlier, what my grandfather taught me. My grandfather was a famous mathematics professor at UT. It was his whole career. He grew up during the Great Depression. And he basically saved so much that he became a multimillionaire. And he would show me stacks of hundreds. And he would show it to me when I was really young. And this is going to sound like a weird programming, but it's actually a beautiful ending. And he would say, you know, what is this? And I'd say, well, it's clearly money. And he would be like, well, you know, guess again. And he eventually would tell me, this is freedom. This is freedom to do what you want in life. And then he would ask me what the most important thing was. And, you know, I was a young kid, and I would be like, what are you going to tell me? It's money. You know? And he said, no. Guess again. I was like, it's, you know, it's got to be, you know, it's got to be family. He'd be like, no, it's not family. He'd be like, it's health. Because without your health,
Nothing.
You can't take care of your family, and you can't use your money to enjoy experiences. And, you know, that is kind of like the embodiment, I think, of what Fulfillionaire is all about.
Is.
You know, but he taught me that so early on.
They kind of say there's three things. Your health is the core.
Yeah.
If you have your health and you get lucky, you can actually create wealth, which is money. But then there's actually what's after wealth is prosperity.
Right.
And prosperity is beyond money. Prosperity is being a fulfillionaire. Prosperity is when you truly are aligned, your spirit, mind, community, like you truly are abundant in all ways that abundance can exist as a human.
So, you know, I've been walking, you know, the spiritual path for a long time on this topic. Like, yeah, I remember with Vedanta, you know, Deborah and I studied Vedanta, which is an ancient Indian philosophy. It really preceded a lot of the world's religions. You know, the Vedas came up within the Himalayas. And it was all about meditating on what is the actual path to happiness. And I went to study it in India with Swamiji Parthasarathi. If you haven't read his books, they're really, really amazing. His one on governing business and relationships is extremely accessible. I think it's the best book I've actually ever read.
I'm 3/4 of the way through.
Business.
It's on my nightstand because of you right now.
Oh, cool. Okay, good.
I love it.
So one of the principles there is that you will always feel wealthy if you spend less than you make, you know, and in this case, significantly less. And so since that Nissan, you know, 300CX story, from that point on, and, you know, it's funny because I had this material desire. Deborah didn't have it. She's actually never had a material desire. She's all about experiences. You know, she doesn't care at all about what her net worth is. It's funny because I tell her every year I'm totally transparent about all finances. You know, it's a true partnership. We make all of our investments together. And then she just completely forgets the number.
By the way, Janet does the same thing. I do this. I try to quarterly update my wife.
Yeah.
And
yeah, which actually is great. You know, my wife is really flowing with happiness and, you know, doing what she wants to do. You know, she just got back from a 3-week trip in Patagonia, and, you know, hiking all around, just having the time of her life, and that makes me so happy. And so, and, you know, we do lots of trips together, obviously, but, you know, with you know, the net worth path, it's not the path. The path is about, you know, really having the money that you need to have the experiences you want. And ever since that brush with, you know, truly feeling impoverished in my own way by being owned by this car that I didn't need, and getting out of it really quickly, from that point on, we didn't buy anything in this unless we could outright buy it. Now that makes me very unusual in that I don't like to carry debt. But I also get that from my grandfather who grew up during the Great Depression, you know, and he saw like how much that could ruin a family. You know, his dad deserted the family. He was an alcoholic. And as a result, like left my grandfather as the oldest child with his mom, my great grandmother, to raise the family. And that put him on this path of eventually, you know, going a very safe career route with UT Austin, being a professor for the rest of his life. I mean, he was happy that I took, you know, kind of the more entrepreneurial route later on, but he didn't feel safe or called to do that. I don't think he was an entrepreneur persona, frankly. He was like a teacher persona. Yeah. My dad was entrepreneur persona and pursued that. And I got part of that from my dad and my mom. But I'm curious, like for you with Fulfillionaire, like what were the moments in your background that got you to realize that this is what it's all about, you know? Yeah. Do you have the Nissan 300Z story, or was it something else where you kind of got to this point of
two things.
A holistic development?
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you, I mean, first of all, on the Nissan side, it was actually that BMW. It was the moment that BMW was delivered to me.
Yeah, it was the one where.
And I realized.
So you really couldn't afford it.
I was expecting joy from this car.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe how stressed I was.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe as my first years into that my business was starting to make a lot of money, that I was going through depression. Really bad depression. Actually, the worst depression of my life. Wow. Or the 2 or 3 years I started earning the most money, I'd go to the office, I'd shut my door and I'd cry.
Wow.
And then like carry on with business. And there was reasons for it. There was other things going on, but the big dynamic really was just not feeling safe. Just not feeling really safe or clear. Now, it's like I spent 15 years, because I didn't make money early in life. I wasn't like I had like 10 careers, things that failed. I tried .coms that failed. And so I really, really worked hard. And I think I was so obsessed with working hard to one day get to that goal that I never really thought about what the goal was actually going to feel like, or be like, or mean. And I think the depression, part of the reason for the depression was just like literally being like mapless and rudderless, which made me ask the question, why make money? What's it about? Now I get to pay the bills and not fight with my wife. But that was great, because in the early days we'd fight about, she'd go to Whole Foods and buy organic diapers, and we'd get to arguments because we were just making it through. So I know what it's like to be very stressed and very scarce around money. But I think it kind of led me on a larger journey after that to like, okay, how much is enough? And by the way, Brett, I'm going to be like really like candid with you. It never ends. This ego never ends. I still, as comfortable as I think I've become, over 25 years of researching the topic, putting together estate planning and taxation and family trust, there's still a part of me that has moments that like, is it enough? So and here's how the headlines, like, this week gold went down. Okay, this is not worth less. Do I have enough of this? What if AI hacks my Wells Fargo? I thought I was safe. These are the thoughts that still enter my mind. I thought I was safe with my money, but my money's at Wells Fargo. Is it safe at Wells Fargo? If these AI agents can do all these fun stuff, like who says they're not going to outsmart our institutions soon? And the point is that neuroses will never stop. Judaism has a name for it. You know, we talk about this in Judaism, this idea of like the animal soul and your higher instincts, like your spiritual instincts versus the animal soul. And it's actually the core tenet of Judaism. Do you know about this?
I don't,
So this is a core tenet of Judaism. That really what we deal with all of our life, it's kind of very different. Like, you're always going to have this animal soul. The animal soul wants what any animal soul would want. I'm hungry. I want money. I want to find that woman who wants to have sex with me. It's like everything, I want this. It's like what you need now. It's the indulgences that you need to be satisfied now, the cravings, the indulgences, the wants. That's the animal soul. At the same time, you have your spiritual soul, which knows like that is looking to like, I really want to like, I want to be the best person I can be. I'd like to be the light upon nations. I'd like to give more. I'd like to be more. I'd like to be a better husband, better father, a better person on this planet. Like, it's your higher instincts. And Judaism says you're never going to get rid of the animal soul. So the last breath you take, so the version, some people call it being a sinner. You can call this being a sinner, whatever. It's actually just, it's fear, it's indulgence, it's everything. And all Judaism says is, if you study your spiritual practices, of course, in Judaism, it's study the Torah, which is half the Bible. But whatever your practice is, the goal is not to try to get rid of this, it's to quiet it down.
Right.
So that you can spend more time in your spiritual journey using your higher spiritual instincts.
Right.
So when given a choice of A or B, do I have that drink? Do I go down this path? Instead of chasing the shiny things, you continue to grow, and the final result is you'll never be perfect. Every now and then, your animal soul's gonna win, and that animal soul's never gonna shut up. So when I'm having those thoughts of, oh my God, gold is down, or is Wells Fargo gonna get destroyed by these new AI agents?
Right.
The classic wisdom would be, don't try to get rid of those thoughts. You're not going to meditate your way through those thoughts. Calm them down so that you can be more of a witness. Say, oh, that was an interesting thought.
Right.
So even being a fulfillionaire it's not a status that you get to. It's a practice.
Right.
Even for me now, Brett, I was just telling you when we took a break, like, I definitely have my moments right now as I'm going into my second summit of being an empty nester and doing this more full time. Fulfillionaire is not a business plan. It's the first time in my life since college where this isn't like, I don't have funnels to make money. I'm not trying to necessarily convert people. I don't have a goal.
Right.
I have a mission.
Yep. This is where I'm at with Love Conquers Fear.
Yeah.
You and I are at the same place. Yep.
And
Yep.
it can be uncomfortable.
Yep.
It can really be uncomfortable because I know, like, real estate's in a cycle that will very soon, like, I know if I just stuck to the skill I've been doing for 20 years, I could accumulate more money. And that sounds like very safe and fun. Maybe there's always things, I can do. Maybe I buy a new house, like on and on and on. And that's the balance, I think, between I love that idea of, like, don't try to get rid of this. Just quiet it down and don't let it run you.
Right.
And if you can get stronger and stronger on this side, you're doing really, really well. But to your last breath, don't fight it.
Well, to my point about Vedanta, like, it is a spiritual root. I mean, the Tao Te Ching is too. The Tao Te Ching, you were talking about God being a provider. The Tao Te Ching calls that the Tao, and there's a great verse in the Tao Te Ching, which is ancient Chinese mysticism and a deep channeling from source. It's profound. You'll see it in all the spiritual traditions. That when you walk the way, which is walk the way of the Tao, it becomes provider, and you become a vessel. And we're all vessels of the divine, whether we realize it or not. It's depending on how awake we are and whether we see those synchronicities in our life. But in Vedanta, it does educate you on the nature of mind, which is the same thing you would say as the animal soul in Judaism, which is the nature of mind is left ungoverned. It always worries about the past, has anxieties about the future.
Completely.
You'll completely miss the current moment. And you have to, we are under assault all the time with the level of programming we receive.
Yeah.
And that level of programming is for other people who have this disease of just constant accumulation. They're also
hardwired for
programmed.
survival.
Yeah.
And the history of humankind has been one of scarcity. So when you talk about abundance in the world of AI, or GDP more than doubling in the next 12 months because of AI, humans only know what it's like. If you don't catch your food, you can go hungry and starve and die.
Right.
You need to provide. So, like, having compassion for humanity, we've been hardwired for survival, not hardwired for abundance.
Right.
Right? So we have we have a lot of evolutionary hardwiring that gives me some feeling of, because it's so frustrating to watch, but I also have to be empathic and empathetic, I should say, for the world. And also I feel like I'm doing it from a place where right now I'm sitting with you, my body is very comfortable. I'm talking to one of my very best friends.
Yeah, likewise.
And there's like this feeling of, like, just safety and love.
Yeah.
But that's not like reality. And here on a Friday in the middle of the day, chatting, not at a desk. And I've been, just one quick aside, like, my conversation yesterday is I adopted a kind of a kid 7 years ago.
Yeah, I remember.
Unofficially,
Yeah.
Simon, he's like, I met him in an orphanage in Uganda, and right now he has a hernia. And the surgery is $2,000. But I just took him through college so that he could start earning money on his own. And he can't afford it, and so he's in pain. And he keeps coming to me for more. And what I'm realizing is that it's a hard moment because there's been 7 years of supporting him, and it really was the joy was always meant to be for me.
Right.
Is getting, I actually say this is the highest level of giving in Maimonides as well, is teaching someone a skill so they don't have to ask anymore, which is back to the giver and receiver.
Yep.
That when the receiver doesn't have to feel shame because they can stop asking because you've given them the skill or the dollars amount that they've learned on their own. That's actually the highest spiritual level of giving. So it was really killing me because I told him after graduation, like I was done. I told him that 5 years ago. I'm just going to help him through getting a degree in tourism, and that was it. And now I'm seeing him, and he keeps asking me for more, and he's blaming the government, and all these things that he can't break the cycle. And I'm really trying to do a little tough love. His dad, I say dad, you know what I'm saying, like pseudo dad, not real dad. He doesn't have that kind of like leader, and I'm being a little tough with him and saying, I know you need this operation right now, so how are you going to figure this out? You now have a degree.
Right.
I think it's not life or death, but it's uncomfortable. It's like, and of course he wanted to go to a private hospital, which is $2,000. There's government programs that will do it for free. So I had a really hard conversation with him yesterday about what other alternatives can you do right now between the government, other programs to get this solved? Like, how can we get you in a creative place to solve these things? But it's really hard because you want to give to everybody. But I'm really, really my goal with him from day one was to give him enough, which in this case was a college degree, to get gainful employment to end that cycle of poverty for him. It's been exhausting. It's been really hard. I had no idea when I took on this little project. Like he calls me 5 times a week and I can't always talk to him. But what he really wants to know besides the money is that somebody actually cares about him. He wants to be seen. And the reason why he calls me Papa and he's asking me is because he's let me know the fact that I just took a stand for him means everything to him. Because now I haven't given him money for 2 months since December, almost 3 months now. And he still calls me just this. I mean, he knows we had a really, really clear agreement. And he just wants, imagine the world if you knew, no matter who you were in life, if you were born in Uganda with no money and not a lot of opportunity, that somebody actually cares about you. I try to do that in my apartments and the apartments that are in real estate with my nonprofit. And I think that is love. I think that is really such a deep spiritual practice of
for sure.
Of love, right?
I mean, we visited Kibera, which is the biggest slum in Kenya, in Nairobi, back when we were there for the Nobility Project. They had just finished building Mahiga Hopai.
It's such a cool project.
And we visited, and it was one of the most amazing experiences Deborah and I had ever had. They'd just opened it, and the children just ran out and they're all pinching our skin because a lot of these children had never even seen skin this color. They're growing up in a place where after middle school, there was no high school. And to get to their middle school, oftentimes they're hiking 6 miles. Their parents don't have cars, for example. So it was, but in Kibera, visiting the slum, we really fell in love with this girl, and we agreed to pay for her schooling all the way through high school. And Rachel and her became pen pals. Oh, how cool. And Rachel was always like, wow, she writes so much better than me. And just all these beautiful things. But I know that feeling. And one of the feelings, or one of the big teaching moments with Rachel growing up is, Rachel's our oldest daughter. She's 21. She's at Tulane, triple major. She's hyper ambitious. But with Rachel, she came out with a book, about her book, which is called Guardians of the Forest, when she was 13. And when she was 12 and she was working on it, she found the illustrator. And the illustrator cost $7,000 to pay. And she had saved up money since she was 7 years old, because one day she wanted to write a book. She knew since she was very young, that she wanted to do that. Interesting synchronicity, because since 7, that's when I started programming. I found my soul song. And it was to create a better world through technology. That's what I'm still working on, right? With Love Conquers Fear. Yeah. I'm just doing it at kind of the metathematic level now. And with Rachel, she said, come on, you guys could just pay this. Like, you guys could just pay this. She'd saved up since she was 7 by selling jewelry at coffee shops.
Yeah.
And she'd saved up all this money. And it was her whole net worth. Her whole net worth was $7,000.
Wow.
And I told her, I said, and it was agonizing at the time, because yes, we could just pay for it. But I told her, I said, Rachel, if we pay for this, you will remember for the rest of your life that we took your power. And you saved up for this since you were 7 years old. And I know it's all your money, but you will remember for the rest of your life that you paid for it, and you'll never forget it.
Yeah.
And she actually wrote about that in one of her essays to get into Tulane, which was her dream school, is her dream school. She loves it there. And, that was one of those moments where we just absolutely could have screwed it up. So I understand.
Yeah,
I understand
it's hard.
the agony
It's so hard.
of it, Yeah, because you could just pay $2,000,
I could just pay it, like,
right? Yeah, but you, yeah, it's these are the parenting moments, where they really, really matter.
And, you think about it like there's this balance in life between knowing that people care about you, like even a stranger showing up for you. Mm-hmm. But there's that tension of also letting, like I said, getting that high, you're actually giving someone the freedom to figure it out is definitely a powerful thing. Mm-hmm. Brett, we were at a dinner party together this week, and it seems...
It was a great party.
That was a wonderful party.
Yeah, great discussion.
I had some really great thoughts, but you really think about it right now as we go through, there's a lot going on in my mind that feels like love and fear right now for me. I'm going to be like, usually I really vibrate mostly on love, like you say, but like we are, things have changed in the last 13 days, 15 days. And I'm watching like what we've been talking about at the TED Talks. Now they're starting to come into some reality of just how smart and how fast things are moving. And you and I are both pretty good extrapolators about like what it could mean. And certainly can mean lots of great things, which is the optimistic side. And I tend to be a Brett Hurt. I'm a Brett Hurt, Peter Diamandis fan. You two are my two favorite optimists besides myself. So like, I definitely...
He's got a great podcast with Moonshot.
Yeah, I love Moonshot. Yeah. It's one of my favorites. So it's like this idea of the technology is not necessarily bad. It's not necessarily good. It's like, to your point, it's just collecting human intelligence. And we know at the core, the thing we need to break after 300,000 years is this illusion of separateness.
Right.
And we talked about this, we called it tribalism. We were actually, I loved our conversation on tribalism. And we were talking about tribalism, which is in some ways is beautiful, right? Like identity, like how great that humans can identify of 9 billion people on the planet that you could say, I'm Jewish and there's only 16 million of us. Or, hey, I'm American, like, or I'm a Dodger fan. Like there's lots, like the Super Bowl's happening. Like there's lots of ways that tribalism can be really, it creates identity. It actually creates intimacy, right? Like, what do they say? It's hard to know more than 150 people in any way and really have an intimate relationship.
Yeah, I forgot what that law is called, but yeah, I first read about that in Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
It was referenced.
So I love this idea of tribalism to the extent that it creates, in a very big world, it creates intimacy, it creates belonging, identity. The dark side, the shadow side of that is it creates this illusion of separateness, right? And love conquers fear. So much of the core, when I think about, I've been listening to some of your podcasts and the conversations we've had, is love can really, the light has to come in over fear when we feel safe with each other.
Yep.
As a species now. It's no longer the 150 people.
Yeah.
We'll continue doing that. And I think at the dinner party, I came with let me see if I can remember what I said. I said, is there a way to know tribally that we're special but not better is what I think I said at the dinner party. We're special, but not better.
Right, that's what you said, yep.
So it's like this humble servant leadership that we all truly matter, because I find that most religions, they say we're all, they say it out loud, hey, we're not better, but we're a little better.
Right.
Or join this club. join this golf club, or Brett, like, this society you want to be in, like, yeah, it's all the same, except we have an edge that someone else doesn't know. Right. And as humans, of course, we want to have the edge. But I think that's good, and it's also the shadow side that keeps love conquering fear. So I feel like right now in this day and age, we can jump into AI and all the things, but I feel like what humanity really has to do as humans right now is to somehow, if we can, take a new identity towards tribalism.
Well, that is in part 3 of my book, Love Conquers Fear, is on transformation. And I know you're a fan of the lattice. You talked about it at dinner party.
Love the lattice.
Well, so the as you know, in the lattice, like the way humanity unites is that science and spirituality come together.
Yes.
And we find out that our actual reality, our provable actual reality, is rooted in love and light. And, one of the things that I find super exciting about this moment with AI, sure, I'm geeked out. I've been programming since I was 7. I've geeked out with the whole, all the things that it can do, and what questions would you want to ask a machine that has consumed all of the content from all the spiritual text, et cetera. I mean, it's a fascinating question. Again, people should just jump in. What question do we want to ask? It's the Babel fish moment. It communicates in every language. You can ask any question you want about anything. Like I could take a photo of this Buddha, which is the representation of Kuan Yin, and read all about Kuan Yin and why Kuan Yin is the embodiment of male and female and the helper to God for humanity to ascend. By the way, very Celestine prophecy. This wall, this Buddha, did not put this here. This has been here for 11 years.
What?
This is like all, yeah. I mean, the woman we bought the house from is just all meant to be, right?
Wow.
That like the prediction of working, the divine guidance that I'd be working on Love Conquers Fear.
But Brad, I'm going to say this one little side. This is just a bro thing before we go to the next thing.
Yeah.
I've watched your spiritual transformation since I've known you.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable.
Well, thank you.
I mean, the speed.
That means a lot coming from you.
Yeah.
Bro.
I mean, your heart has always been, like you've always had a beautiful heart. And I think I know you give your mom a lot of kudos and your dad.
Thank you. Likewise.
For your heart.
You have too.
But your spiritual depth of taking that heart that you've always had, because to have EQ and IQ in balance is a lot of times you're gifted with one or the other, but I think you've always been both, but I'm just watching you take it to the next level in your spirit. I just want to acknowledge you.
Thank you.
So like for you to even see the 11 years and the path that you've been on and your transformation in those 11 years is incredible.
Well, thank you. I mean, for me, I've been very transparent about this on the podcast. I mean, for me, psychedelics have been a catalyst. I mean, now the reality is that's my soul coming out. And I've seen through journeys that I'm doing exactly what my soul wants me to do right now.
So beautiful.
But,
so fantastic.
Having a lot of experiences growing up with God through prayer, and feeling it, and feeling that feeling all over my body as I am looking at something incredibly beautiful. As Patrick Tempo said on episode 25, he thinks that the definition of love is witnessing beauty, and that happens a lot of times in nature.
I love that, by the way.
Yeah, that's a great episode. He's got a beautiful heart. Talk about another guy with just a beautiful heart.
Just witnessing beauty.
Just witnessing beauty, right? Which is what our fellow friend, the maker of fantastic fungi is working on right now, 100%. Right, with hidden beauty. So, it's Louis Schwartzberg. So it's one thing to read spiritual text and understand this reference to, to God or this higher power, whatever created the spark that led to the Big Bang, and I believe consciousness is fundamental. It's one thing to kind of intellectualize that. It's a whole nother thing to experience that. And, I'm going to have Evan Alexander on this podcast. He's experienced it deeply through a near-death experience. Yeah. I've had 11 friends now in 14 months open up to me about their near-death experience. Wow. 11 friends. Prior to 2025, 0 friends open up. Some of these people have been friends of mine for 10 to 20 years. This is the most transcendent experience of their entire life. But I think this consciousness awakening, with psychedelics, with meditation, is really, it's a synchronicity for humanity overall. And if you didn't look at it spiritually, you would say that there's this kind of natural selection, evolutionary, biological thing that we don't understand, that is trying to wake us up so we don't extinct ourselves. That's another way you could look at it. I don't think I think two things can be true at the same time, but what I've seen is it's actually our spiritual reality that's attempting to wake us up. What do you think about that? And what is your opinion on what is this reality we're in? I've spent a lot of time on this podcast talking about that.
Yeah. I don't think it's a simulation. I think the lattice, I'll tell you a lot about the lattice. Not only does it talk about really like love and science coming together, what I love is you actually took it to the next level. Now there's other planets and other realities and other dimensions. Mm-hmm. And ironically, there are patterns. While we have different languages and different bodies and different chemistry, we're not made of the same thing. We actually all function essentially on the same vibration. Mm-hmm. I know it sounds but like that really hit me beautifully.
Yep.
And I think that's probably
love is the highest vibratory force in the universe.
Yeah. So to really understand, this is back to tribalism. It doesn't matter what body. It doesn't matter if you run on nitrogen, oxygen, carbon. It doesn't really matter how you think. If you're big, small, tall. It's like there is a frequency and vibration that we just barely understand. Mm-hmm. It's sounds, it's color, it's light. The quantum is now just kind of exploring what these things are. Mm-hmm. And so for ultimately, really just these vibrations and frequencies, mm-hmm. It really changes the way you think about things. I think it's what the lattice. So I'm still not sure, Brett. I do think love is I'm not sure if it's I know you think it's the guiding principle. Mm-hmm. I hope it is. I know it's a guiding principle. Mm-hmm. I think there's definitely forces. When I look at duality on this planet, I don't know why Earth has duality. You could say you can't have light without darkness. Mm-hmm. You and I, maybe to actually expect, to be in a body, which is I learned from some of my psychedelic experiences, mm-hmm. This body has a lot of friction. If you have no soul, if you imagine that you were just a spirit or an angel or whatever, mm-hmm. is it better? Is heaven there with an angel, or is this heaven? Mm-hmm.
I think heaven is all around us.
I think so too. By the way, I used to think more like the religious thing, like you try to be a good person so you can go to heaven. Mm-hmm. I actually think this body that gets aches and pains and arthritis and can get moody and can get depressed and is happy and sad. I have a feeling that maybe this is heaven or a heaven, mm-hmm. because the friction of pain and pleasure, the contrast. Mm-hmm. I sometimes even look at love or sex. Sometimes it's the lack of love, then you find love, mm-hmm. and it's so explosive. Right. Or right now I'm actually hungry. It's going to be at lunchtime. It's the fact that my stomach's a little hungry right now is the opposite of food. It's a little, not pain, but discomfort. And it's how fun that we get to, how do you get the pleasure if you don't experience the other part of it? So I think the nature that I really see, and it's hard, is that, and it makes it easier to love though, is that these are just meat suits.
Right.
This is not a simulation. Yeah. It is a vibration. Yeah. I do think that there is a much larger cosmic consciousness, mm-hmm. universal consciousness, and we just don't have the scientific principles yet to understand that this universe, which is so beyond our comprehension as humans as being large, to someone else this may not be large at all.
There's 100 billion galaxies alone, we theorize.
Right.
Just the size of a galaxy is hard to comprehend.
Well, Brett, you think about
it. Now imagine 100 billion.
How many cells are in a human body? Is it
trillions?
Trillions, 3 trillion. Yeah. So what if you and I are just a little cell in the right toe of another creature that's we don't even have size or scale, because right now you have 3 trillion cells. Is it cells in your body? Is it cells or elements? How would you
cells, yeah.
Cells.
Yeah. But the crazy thing is we're almost all empty space, and we know that we're light and energy from a quantum level.
Yeah.
Everything here, everything, you, me, we're almost all empty space.
So then if we're love, and I think that's why there's that's why I think play wealth is a really fun one for me. And you and I both are so, I think creativity, because creativity is ultimately creation, right? So if there's birth and death, right? Nobody likes to think about death, but how do you have birth if there isn't death? And so if these are just beautiful vibrations and cycles of duality, and we're ultimately creators. So love, the vibration of love and safety is the ultimate. But what I love about LSD in the Mind of the Universe, I'm only halfway through the Audible.
Yeah, Chris Bache, oh my gosh.
I think
he was so amazing.
And the thing I loved about it kind of like is that like I think for a lot of people and the way our religions teach it, you know, there's an entity, there's a deity. If you pray long enough to this deity, whatever God, this deity, you're ultimately you'll go to heaven, or you'll go to this place, or you'll find a spot. And what is the spot? We don't know what the spot feels like. We call it heaven. Some people call it white light. They experience the white light. What I loved about your last guest, though, was he's like, no, let's go beyond the white light.
Right.
And let's go into this, what's it called, the diamond
diamond luminosity.
Let's go to diamond luminosity.
Yeah.
And what I love about that is even love is not one-dimensional. It's like whatever you think love is, it's white light. For some people, maybe it's an orgasm. For some people, maybe it's the birth of their child. For someone, maybe it's making money. I don't know. Like it's getting married, finding the love of your life. Whatever you think love is just a little aspect, a teeny fragment of what actually love is, and it's way beyond human understanding.
Right.
And I think that's really what diamond luminosity woke me up to.
Yeah.
Like, what's the light behind the light, and what are the dimensions of it? Creativity, I think, is a joy and aliveness are aspects, I think, of love.
Yeah.
Because it's all about that creativity and birth, which is, I think, inane. Inane is not the right word, like natural, like that's part of innate. I'm sorry, innate.
Yeah.
I feel like it's innate to whatever this cosmic mystery is.
Yeah.
That love, which is creativity and joy and these aspects, is innate to it.
Right.
And we gravitate towards it when we're not in fear.
Right.
We gravitate towards it.
Well, and that is the common root in all spiritual text. The common root is that you have to get to the point where you find the ability to have love conquer your own fear.
Yeah.
And really embrace that as your reality, and operate from that place. Whether it's, Christianity, Jesus was all about selfless love. That was what he was preaching, right?
Yeah.
He was hanging out with the quote unquote lowest of the low, looking at every human being for the divinity within, and trying to lift them up. Yeah. And that is, in Judaism, we call that selfless service. Like, what is the highest form of tzedakah, of giving, is giving without any attribution.
Right.
Right. I didn't, there's things you mentioned on this podcast in this episode that I didn't even know about you, which doesn't surprise me, which is like, okay, of course, JP has done that and never told me, which is really awesome.
Yeah.
So, that is the common root. Like, if I really distill all the books I've read on quantum physics, AI, consciousness, and ultimately spirituality, it's to find that common root, that's the tie that binds us all together. That's the actual reality we come from. And then once we've done that hard internal work, whether it's through Fulfillionaire or just walking the spiritual path or both, then at that point you can help others have love conquer their fear. And then if all of humanity does that, we ascend. Like, that's the metaphorical and mystical heaven and earth merging. I mean, that's the biggest reason why I'm doing this project, is that one thing I am good at is I can see where technology is going to go. I've been able to see that since I was a little kid. I was with this woman last week, and she was like, one of the things I was struck by with you. She was listening to some speech I gave like 20 years ago. I can't even remember the speech, but she said, in that speech, you were talking about the fact that when you were 10, 11 years old, you were telling your teachers like how everything was going to be okay with technology, how their jobs would be better, how they would be able to teach better. And I was like, wow, okay, I'd forgotten about that. But yes, you're right. Like, I was having those discussions all the time. And with great power comes great responsibility. So we're in a place now where we're in the exponential of exponentials. Our ability to manifest abundance that you and I can't even imagine. Like, if you and I could time travel 100 years from now, like assuming humanity makes it, which I'm 95% certain that we make it, at that, we will not be able, you and I would not be able to completely grapple with what life is like 100 years from now.
Just like you said, electricity didn't exist. You know,
yeah,
it's like a different world.
Yeah, but electricity, you know, we've had for the last around 300 years of our 300,000 year cycle. Now it's like this exponential of exponential curves, where every week of tech progress to me feels like a year, 10 years ago. What's it? You know,
I've never experienced anything like this in my life. The last year of technology. Yeah. Yeah, and I've lived through like the internet, the cell phone, smartphones. You know, like I've never seen anything like this before.
So I really, and I've seen this through a psychedelic journey, that this really is God's final exam for humanity, and God wants us to make it. You know, whatever you call God, and you know, a lot of people are triggered by that. Whether you call that consciousness, whether you call that heaven, whether you call that the great intelligence of the universe. I think that's what Joe Dispenza calls it. I know you're a Joe Dispenza fan. I am too. That, you know, God wants us to make it to that place. And once we make it there, what I've seen is that now we are one of the species, maybe we don't know for sure if there's other life out there. It's hard to imagine there's not in 100 billion galaxies in a universe this vast. As far as we know, it's infinite.
Yeah.
Once we make it, then we get to propagate the rest of the universe with love conquering fear. And we find out in the lattice that other species out there have had that precipice point where they had to get to that point. And part of how I've heard the Fermi's paradox explained, which the Fermi's paradox is like, if there's alien life out there, why have we not already seen it? Is that one of the dystopian ways to look at it is that no species has gotten to the point of development we've gotten to and then survived. That there's like this point where if you don't stop playing the tribal games and the zero-sum games,
technology, you blow yourself up and it's over and you got to start all over again.
And as I've covered on this podcast, you know, we already have so many nuclear weapons today.
Yeah, I think it was to destroy the Earth. What did you say, 300 times over, some crazy number?
It's 50 times over. So just 2% of today's arsenal. And we've never made more in some countries as are being made right now, even though there's already 50 times. And, you know, the acronym for that is MAD, which is mutually assured destruction.
Right.
So it is this disease that we have to overcome. And I don't see another way of us making it without the dogma breaking down and our actual reality coming into focus, so that humanity embraces that. And, you know, a dystopian way that we would make it, which I don't believe in, but some people have hypothesized, is that it has to get so dark that we have to go to such a violent place, et cetera, that gets humanity to wake up, right? But I don't think we're doomed to repeat the past at all. Like, we evolved, you know. There are things that we did in the past, like had slaves, et cetera, that are completely obsolete notions. The way that women have been treated, you know, it's a recent advancement, even in America. You know, did you know that women didn't have the right to have a checking account until the late 70s in America?
Crazy.
I mean, women didn't have the right to vote until about 100 years ago. We're supporters, you know, philanthropists for the 19th, you know, which is a great nonprofit in town that covers women's news. That there's an asterisk on their logo, because for women of color, that wasn't until around 50 years later.
Right.
So it's like only white women had the right to vote. So there's just like, there's a lot that we've evolved from that we're not doomed to repeat, you know?
Can I throw a curveball at you? Not even negative, it's just a curveball.
Yeah.
So in a lot of religions, if we believe it called spirit, God, whatever, that ultimately we're not in charge. We think we're in charge. That's also an illusion, that we're not in charge. There's actually a divine plan, right? Which I know is a hard, you know.
The illusion of separation.
The illusion of separation, but also that there really is a plan that's bigger than us, whether we know there's a cosmic thing.
Yeah.
And so we've had times where humanity kind of went off course, and there was like Noah's Ark. You know, was it a wrathful God, or was it just a God saying, hey, we're going to do a little correction check here? We have evolved so much. I mean, you're right. Like, there's no doubt we've evolved. And I think we also know, with the technology moving at this speed, it's like this race between our consciousness being able to go from love, from fear to love, like being able to do that. It's a race of that.
Yep.
and technology, getting so smart because we're exponentially growing technology, and we're rooting for our human consciousness to be able to keep up with it.
Right.
And if you're really religious, you would say it really, have faith, because honestly, like whatever is best for humanity, it's a loving, compassionate God. And sometimes though, I know in Judaism they almost say God is, sometimes he's like your loving parent.
Right.
Sometimes you do get a little smack on the ass or something, but ultimately it's for the good of the planet and good for the vibration of love.
Right.
I am with you. I want you to, like I'm completely with you.
Yep.
That I would love to see humanity wake up in a way that we really surprise ourselves. And I always say, man plans and God laughs. Like even if it looks dark right now,
right.
to your point, in 10 or 15 years, it might be like, wow, the next Elon Musk came up and literally reprogrammed all the stuff. We got all scared. We figured it out. It all went really, really well.
Right.
And I want to believe in that too. And could we believe, no matter what, even if it's not the outcome that you and I want as humans, that whatever's in store for us is absolutely, whether it's maybe not be good for us or our kids ultimately, but may ultimately be good for humanity and God and love long term. Because I actually think love does conquer fear no matter what.
Yep.
Like I think no matter what we do, love will conquer fear.
Yep.
Just like the lattice says, your book is brilliant, Brett.
Thank you.
Because love always conquers fear.
Yep.
We're going to do it.
Yeah.
What you and I want, we want us humans in our lifetime, in our generation, for our kids' sake, to break this cycle of humans going backwards and forwards, and forwards.
Well,
and there's a moment right now to do it. And you and I are rooting, if we can push the scale, which I think we can.
Yep.
We're just trying to push the scale a little bit, tilt it a little bit. It's not a majority. I don't think this is a majority wins, by the way. I don't even think you have to convince half of humanity. I think there's just enough of us that it's an energetic spiritual movement that tilts the scale to a different reality.
Yep.
Like, let's say there's a bunch of realities. It's not like good or bad. It's not like annihilation or utopia. There's tons of potential realities.
Right. That's very quantum physics. Yeah.
Right? And we collectively get to decide. But I can tell you from my psychedelic experiences, the wisdom that was downloaded to me was, I asked my source, what number did we need? What number will tilt the scale? Like, what? Because I want to know how to do it. I wanted the map. And I got scolded. Like, you are such a human, and you think this is still about numbers, and you have your calculations in your formula. And the response was, I've never discussed this before, but the response was, it's not a number, and it's not even on your mathematical systems, and it's not majority rules.
Yep.
It's a number that you don't need to know about. It's an age-old number, but the number's not based on even your number of numbers. It's actually collective energy of like enough people in the same frequency standing for love over fear that will tilt it to different realities. The way it was explained to me, this is so weird that I'm telling you this.
Yeah, this is cool.
The way it was explained to me, it was I got scolded by it a little bit. It was a tough grandma explaining this to me. Was it's almost like the tire on a car. Do you remember the old, like 20 years ago, they'd put these little weights, like they'd hammer on your, so your tire didn't wobble? They'd put they'd hammer a weight here and a little weight here, and it was a way to keep your, and this is how it was explained to me, that literally tires, throughout humanity, in the creation, you get these moments that things get wobbly. And it always comes back, it's gonna correct no matter what. Like, we may not like the way it corrects, but it's gonna correct. That tire will correct, because that's just what universal spirit will do. But if enough of us, and it's not a number and it's not a formula, it's an intention. It's like you're now by you doing this, Brent, taking time and not rushing your next company, you're standing for something. Me being here with you, we're voting.
That's right.
Anyone in the audience right now who's like, I'm doing this one thing right now to push love over conquers fear. You're hammering away at that little weight that puts the tire that's been out of alignment back into a alignment. And so this moment, as important as it is for technology, and I would say as important it is to understand all this, what's more important than to understand about this is for every soul that is lit up by this message, and I think if they've been listening to us for almost 2 hours, there must be some interest in the topic, is to vote with all your heart, mind, and soul
Yep.
for humanity.
Yeah.
And for yourself, for your family,
I mean,
and
that's
love.
it. I mean, you've summarized it perfectly, and that is why I'm doing this. I mean,
Yeah.
it is, and it really takes us all as team humanity. You know, we have agency, we have free will. Like even being a part of the divine and the separation, you know, the illusion of separation. You know, John Mackey covered that so well on episode 30. That's such a fun episode of Love Conquers Fear. That we are voting through our actions, and so I am voting for all of humanity.
You're
this. I
voting
know
for
you're
it.
voting for
And you
humanity
just
with
declare
Fulfillionaire.
this is going to work out. I'm 95% certain this is. You are literally telling the universe, which is a very quantum thing. This is how it's going to work out.
Yeah. I've had 5 or 6 guests on that are 100% certain it works out.
Yeah.
And they lay it out really well. You know, Byron Reese in episode 11, he talks about the path to utopia, and you know, his book We Are Agora, it looks at humanity and the planet as a functioning superorganism, like a beehive.
Yeah.
That it's taking care of itself. So it's going to be a wild 10 to 15 years. I'm super excited to be on this path with you, brother. I love your heart.
Thank you.
I really appreciate our friendship, and yeah, thanks for all the ways you lift me up.
Thank you. And I would say ditto. You have no idea. I would have never imagined how beautiful this friendship has gone, how deep it is, and also to have a, you talk about community, people wealth, which is community. This is why when you see my heart, when you see me as my heart being so bright, it's a reflection on you, but it's because we've curated the most beautiful community, starting with our families and ourselves, and kind of continuing out. Yeah. There's one thing I wanted to say though. Can I get one last thing before we wrap up? Yeah. You know, if you're asking yourself, if you're in the audience and you're asking yourself, okay, this is all great. Brett and JP are talking about some pretty lofty things, and they've done some psychedelic journeys, and they've had these downloads. What about, you know, the rest of us? I woke up this morning, and it happens to me a lot in the morning. I have a lot of dreams at night, and sometimes I wake up very dysregulated in the morning. I feel like I'm almost like not sure if I'm actually completely on planet Earth or if I'm back or not. And I feel kind of tired, and my body can be achy. And so I woke up kind of dysregulated today. And I didn't want to work out. Like my body, like my brain was screaming, don't work out, don't do anything, right? But ironically, I have yoga on Fridays with my wife. And it's yin yoga, which used to drive me crazy because yin yoga is really still yoga. It's like you hold postures and you hold them for an hour. And I was really rebelling against for a long time about, oh, that's for my wife. I don't do yin yoga. It's just being still. Right. And I found in that hour, I went from being like, my mind was all over the place, a little, like I woke up, I watched a thing on YouTube about AI, and it kind of made me nervous. Like it was all over the place a little bit. Like this monkey mind always needs to be like put back in its place. And just an hour of me committing to a practice of yin yoga with my wife just brought my brain back in regulation so that I can have more access. Right. To love over fear. Because I kind of woke up fearful with dreams and probably shouldn't have turned on YouTube so early and watched the latest version of what's happening. And so my only point is like for all of us, it's like, it doesn't have to be, you know, like between the big journeys or between your realizations, however you find them, I'm really know for me right now, the biggest priority, if I'm really committed to this vision, is regulating my own body. Yeah. And sometimes it's just taking, like before a podcast now, Brett, I do 6 minutes of breath work because I really want to be as present as possible, because I know that if I want to really vote and weigh in, I could be here with you and kind of fake it, but I don't want to for me, for my own experience. And I don't want that for you, and I don't want that for the audience because it's a different energy. Yep. So I'm just saying simple things like awareness of beauty, taking 10 minutes to breathe, box breathing, get a free app on the iPhone. And I do a lot of box breathing. Yeah. And so I know I went a little off, but like... No, I think it's an important point. I mean, you know, one of the things that I told Rachel since she was very, very young is I said, hey, just witnessing a sunrise or a sunset and taking that minute or two to like really see the peak of beauty will give you a day back in your life. I told her that when, you know, I was just making up the day. I don't know. I probably actually does work out that way, math-wise, you know. Good. Because you're operating from a place of deep gratitude. Yeah. And she also referenced that in her essays in we're very blessed with wonderful wonderful families that
Yeah,
are, that
for
are
sure.
doing great.
Well,
Brett, thank you so
yeah.
much.
Well, I love your heart, brother.
Love you so
thanks
much.
so much, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again, everybody, for another great episode of Love Conquers Fear. Really appreciate you tuning in and getting to see JP Newman's heart. We'll put Fulfillionaire and links to sign up to his courses in the show notes. You know exactly why he's doing what he's doing. You know that I'm doing what I'm doing here, self-funding it, really trying to help humanity have a heart shift. I'm getting daily messages about how it's doing that, and that's the helper's high for me. I'm operating at my highest vibratory nature as a soul in a physical body, and really appreciate all the shares you're giving out there. Keep it coming. Let's get the word out and create the movement where love conquers fear. It's up to all of us. Thank you.